Professionals treating traumatized people.
The first word, of course,
different targets, different waiting time targets, different performers, different tick boxes that we've got to do,
really quiet,
and that's across the field of mental health.
being a psychiatrist, which is very maddening for patients, and it's maddening for
Shrink Radio.
There is also a thinking problem underneath it all.
It's a philosophical problem.
Yeah.
I really do think it. When I was reading about how the DSM was invented, rather than,
Discovered.
Spitzer and the people in the room, kind of creating these different categories, and the kind of lack of scientific evidence to back up the creation of those categories, and then those categories then sort of became cast in stone, and certainly when I went into the mental health system, and I remember it was Christmas Eve, and I was suddenly given this CPA plan, and it said client has a diagnosis of a severe and enduring mental illness, tick in a box, and no one had even told me what it was, and it was just so shocking. And it's so easy, I think, for the individual patient to, faced with all these different labels, and you can use these then start attracting different labels, like some kind of sticky, I don't know, like you've got something sticky on you, and all these labels stick to you, and unless you actually understand how to kind of philosophically question the validity of those labels, it's so easy for them to then influence every element of how you think about yourself.
Yes.
And you can actually get dragged into what we were talking about before, which is actually thinking of yourself in a very objectifying, denigratory way. So you kind of see your own self, your own humanity. You see yourself as this thing that's gone wrong, that's just this massive diagnosis, and so the patient themselves ends up losing themselves through this system.
Really, as you were speaking, I was thinking, I don't know if I've quite realised that before. The effect on oneself of having a diagnosis, I haven't sort of fully thought of that.
When I got that piece of paper on it was I'll never forget it. It was Christmas Eve 1998, and I got this, and I was staring at it. Client has a diagnosis of major enduring mental illness, tick in the box, and a suicidal tick in the box, and I was just horrified, and it just knocked me for six, and it caused me. It was the beginning of a real sort of existential crisis for me, because I had my life before, and I knew I had problems, but I didn't have a diagnosis, and suddenly I had this diagnosis, and I would walk around the streets around Borough High Street thinking, there's nothing worse than having this diagnostic label, the one I'd been given particularly. And so, I think the whole system of diagnosis and labelling, it's not just damaging, obviously, as we've talked about, for the nurses and for doctors and for patients. It's just the whole system perpetually is damaging itself. And as you were saying before, the kind of this reductionist kind of model where the human themselves actually slips down into some kind of foxhole, and you kind of lose yourself.
Shrink Radio.